So I've made a small sample here with a 1x1 rib, and I thought I could show you how to make an Italian bind-off left-hand style. And it's not a very complicated process, but it can be described in some different ways, and personally I've been looking a lot at Kimi Munkholm's YouTube videos. I find them very helpful, so I'll try to explain it the way she does, but for left-handers. So first I've cut the yarn approximately 3 times the length of the rib, like so, and I'm using a blunt needle for the sewing. And basically the process of the Italian bind-off is really just sewing through your stitches by alternating between your knit stitches and your purl stitches. All of the stitches will be sewn through twice each by alternating between 2 ways of sewing. We're going to sew the stitches knitwise and purlwise, and that refers to the direction of how the needle is sewing the stitch. So sewing a stitch knitwise means that I'm going through the stitch the same way as if I was to knit it. And sewing a stitch purlwise means that I'm going through the stitch as if I was to purl it. So knitwise and purlwise. So let's start with the first 2 stitches. Here we have first off a knit stitch, and that will be sewn through for the first stitch the opposite way of what it is, so purlwise. Then we have a purl stitch here, and that will be sewn through knitwise. And I'll do that by first go in with my needle here in between the 2 stitches, and then I will sew it through knitwise like so. Okay, now the first 2 stitches are sewn through once each, and they will be sewn for the second time and taken off, but this time the knit stitch will be sewn through as it is, knitwise, and the purl stitch purlwise. So my knit stitch is now taken off knitwise. And then before I make the second stitch for my purl stitch and take it off, I go to my next knit stitch in line and I sew it through for the first time, so purlwise. And now I can take my purl stitch and make the second stitch by taking it off purlwise. Oops. So now I will sew through my next purl stitch by first going with the needle in between, and then I'll sew it knitwise. Then I have my knit stitch taken off knitwise. Then I go to my next knit stitch and I sew it purlwise. Then I have my purl stitch taken off purlwise. Next up, the purl stitch sewn through knitwise, knit stitch taken off knitwise, knit stitch sewn purlwise, oops, and purl stitch. And that's how you do it. You alternate back and forth like that. So let's just continue to get some rhythm into it. And as you can see, you're starting to get this really nice Italian bind off here. And as long as you don't tighten the thread too hard, it will be a really nice elastic bind off.